Hey everybody, it's June 17th and today I want to talk a little bit about the subject of a book that I've just started reading called Daring Greatly by Brene. I'll put it in the down here. But I just started reading this book by her and it's really gotten me thinking about vulnerability and authenticity and what that means, especially because I said at the beginning of my Vlog Every Day in June project that I was going to try to be as authentic as possible. So what does authenticity mean? Why do we want to be authentic? What causes authenticity? All these kind of questions have been like running around in my brain for the last few weeks. So one of the things Brene talks about is that connection is a huge part of what it means to be human, and actually kind of it's in the animal kingdom too, but especially connection with our family members, with close friends. This sense of deeply being involved with somebody else's life is something that humans need in order to feel fulfilled and feel like their life has purpose. So Brene's a researcher and she tried to figure out like how do we create connections with people? What is it that allows us to connect with other people really deeply? And she found that vulnerability is this huge, it's like she talks about it as the cradle of a lot of things, the cradle of a lot of negative feelings and a lot of positive feelings, because a lot of people think when you are vulnerable that means that you are weak or you're opening yourself up to attacks and negative things. But vulnerability also is, and when I say also, I don't mean to say that it is weakness, because she kind of does a good job of proving that vulnerability is not weakness. But vulnerability is also the cradle of creativity, because it allows us to take chances. When we take chances with the risk of failing, that's where creativity comes from. And we can't take chances, we can't create things if we don't take chances and we don't put ourselves out there. So long story short, she talks about how important vulnerability is in terms of creating relationships with people. But then she asks, how do we become okay with being vulnerable? Like, what is it that allows people to feel vulnerable without feeling like they're just going to get ripped to shreds? And like, how do you be vulnerable if you don't have any good experience with it? And the answer to that question, she says, has to do with resilience. And what makes you resilient so that you can open yourself up to possible bad things happening without feeling like it's going to completely destroy you. The way that you do that is by cultivating your own internal sense of worthiness, to believe that you are worthy of being loved and worthy of being cared for, and to really cultivate your sense of self. And once you have a good sense of self and a sense of knowing that even if, 10 people don't like you or whatever, that's not the end of the world. Once you sort of create that sense, you become more resilient, you can open up more, and then you create more connections. So it all sort of builds on itself. One thing that totally shuts down openness and vulnerability is the concept of shame. And she talks about shame as the idea of, if they only knew this about me, or if they only knew I did this thing, they would no longer love me, and I would no longer be worthy of love or worthy of attention or worthy of kindness or whatever it is. That sense of shame of holding something that you feel would just ruin everything and not being able to allow yourself to express yourself fully cuts down your ability to be open to people and cuts down your ability to connect to people. So she talks a lot about how to cultivate vulnerability and how to deal with shame so that you can become more resilient as a person. Anyway, I'm just finding her research to be really fascinating, and it's just really refreshing. She talks about how when you see people or you talk to people who are being really open and authentic, you don't look at that and go, man, that person is so weak for opening up, I could easily exploit that. You go, wow, that person's so brave for being so open and honest. And I feel like that's really true, and that's how I feel about reading her writing. I feel that she's opening herself up and saying, like, I have a really hard time with this concept, even though I know that it is factually true. I have a hard time putting it into practice, and I find that really refreshing. So go check her stuff out. I'm going to put her TED Talk, or one of her 2 TED Talks, in the link down here, and also the name of her book. And I'm going to keep trying to cultivate authenticity and openness, and one of the ways to do that, like I said, is dealing with any internalized shame, and I feel like that kind of comes with the territory when you're LGBT sometimes. So we'll continue to talk about this as we go on. Hope you guys are doing well, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.